What's up, softball players? I'm Dan Blewett. In today's video, let's talk about frustration and why you might get really frustrated and angry with yourself when you make a mistake, make an error, strike out, get hit as a pitcher, whatever. Why that frustration surfaces and why it's sometimes so hard to control. All right, so if you're new here, I'm Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher. I'm the author of 4 books, including my latest is a mental skills book called This Slump Shall Pass. You'll find it in the description of this video. And one of the things that I got from concerned parents a lot when I owned my baseball and softball academy was frustration that their daughter was really showing too much emotion, too much negative emotion on the field. Like, hey, she's a great shortstop, but every time she makes one error, and she only makes like one a weekend, she just gets super frustrated and shows a ton of negative emotion on the field and gets really down on herself, and it sometimes takes her out of a whole game. It's a really common scenario that happens with lots of younger athletes. But what you'll notice is that this doesn't happen that much at the higher levels, and there's a reason why. So number one, as an athlete, you have to sort of be conscious and have some self-awareness of how you react, whether it's positively or negatively, when bad things happen to you. Whether it's something you can control or can't control, whether it's a bad call by an umpire, which you can't control, or you make an error, which is somewhat within your control, but also you're not perfect, right? When bad things happen, you're still always in control of your attitude. That's a given. No matter what happens in life or what you're doing, you're always in control of how you respond to things. Now, that's not to say that you don't have emotions, because we all do. Sometimes something will make me really angry, and I can't just immediately control it because I'm not a robot, right? I still have emotions. I'm still a real person. Sometimes I get frustrated or disappointed or sad or angry. I'm not a robot. You're not a robot. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, when you're in a professional situation, like on a job or in school or on the softball field, and something goes wrong, you have to start to take yourself back and say, I'm feeling really frustrated and angry, but I've got to calm down, take a deep breath, and I've got to refocus for the next play. That's what it means to be mentally in control of your emotions. And every player has that to some degree. Some are better at it than others. And for a lot of people, it takes a lot of work. And that's part of your process. And I think part of that is understanding where that extreme frustration comes from. Because ultimately, making one error or giving up a hit or giving up a run or having a bad game, it's not that big of a deal. You have to look into yourself a little bit more and have some self-awareness and say, where does this really extreme reaction come from? Is it because I'm afraid of looking bad on the field and I don't ever want to look less than perfect and I'm kind of a perfectionist? I think a lot of this extreme frustration that we show on the field comes from perfectionism. And you have to really ask yourself, do I hold myself to too high of a standard? As a shortstop, you cannot go a whole season without making at least a handful of errors. You just can't. Even in the major leagues, in the NPF, it doesn't matter. They all make errors. So you have to ask yourself, am I holding myself to a realistic standard? And is it fair to me to be so angry and disappointed when I make one error in one weekend? Perfectionism is not about being perfect. Everyone has attention to detail when you're a good softball player. Everyone wants to do really well. Everyone wants to be perfect, but that's not what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is a fear of being less than perfect. It's a fear of being vulnerable. It's a fear of disappointing yourself or others. It's a fear of other people not thinking you're as good as you want to be. That's what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is a fear. So you have to understand, is it perfectionism, or is my frustration coming from disappointing my parents or disappointing my coaches or disappointing my teammates? And that's why I feel really frustrated and get really angry, because I don't want to let anyone else down. Or does it come from a place of, I don't feel good about myself when I don't play well in the field? And maybe my self-esteem and my self-worth is too heavily tied to my performance on the softball field. That happens too. And you just need to remind yourself that, you know what? I'm a good person. People love me. People want to be my friend. People care about me no matter how I play on the field. It doesn't matter if I make 5 errors. I'm still a good person. I'm still valuable. People still love me. People still want to be friends with me, and people still think that I'm good. That is something to remember at your core at all times. Softball and how you perform has nothing to do with your worth and your self-esteem as a person. So really think about, if you have a lot of frustration when you make mistakes, where it comes from. And then try to say, okay, if that's where this comes from, I'm going to give myself some positive self-talk and hopefully let this go a little bit more and be better and be more kind to myself so that I can enjoy the game and benefit emotionally and spiritually in the way that I should when I play well, and not get too down on myself when I don't. So hopefully today's video was helpful. The mental side of softball is so important, and hopefully today was a little bit of a boost in the right direction, helping you get over some of the frustration and disappointment that you might feel when you don't play your best. All right, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the links in the description to my courses and my books that can help you with your game, and I'll see you here in the next video.